In a weight class dominated by the pound for pound king, recently there have been two child prodigies who have emerged, coming to take his crown. In this video I'm going to go through who they are and why I believe they could beat Austin Perkins sooner than many think. But first, the shoutouts. So this video was again inspired by a couple of comments. So Ali Eye Strength suggested a video about top powerlifting prospects, and I've gotten a few suggestions now similar along the same vein to go through powerlifting prospects, top juniors, top sub juniors, that sort of thing. So I will be doing more of that. There will be more junior content coming as well. But I decided to combine that with another suggestion I got from Henrique Omega 2829, who suggested I look at lifters who are potentially going to lose their reins at the top of their weight class and also up and coming talent who would thrive. Now I haven't quite gotten to trying every little protein shake, but I did like the first half of that comment. And I'm going to combine those because in this video, I'm talking about two of the top prospects in the sport, Ilya Marichev and Elliott Sykes in the 74s, up and coming talent who I believe could cause Austin Perkins to lose his reign at the top of his weight class relatively soon. Now, first, let's talk about why that's kind of crazy, because you think Austin Perkins, you think he's absolutely head and shoulders above everyone else right now. A big reason for that, aside from the fact he is just so outrageously good, is that the 74s have cleared out a bit recently. If you look at the past two IPF Worlds, 2023, the entire podium, Kalle Johansson, Tim Monegatti, Taylor Atwood, are all now 83s. You look at Worlds from last year, obviously Perk won, but then you had Shell and Tim making up the podium. Shell is now a 66, or at least he's remaining 66 for the world stage. And Tim Monegatti is an 83. So the 74s have really cleared out, and it seems like these lifters leaving have left a gaping hole in the division where Perk is 50 plus kilos ahead of everyone else. And if we look at the current 74 kilo ranking, there's the top 10 lifters currently and the nations they represent, and there are their totals. You will see that he is indeed ahead by well over 50 kilos. However, I want to point out, and in this video I'm going to go through 2 out of these 9 lifters that round off the top 10 who I believe are a real challenge for Perk due to the fact they are genuine child prodigies in the sport. And those 2 lifters, like I already mentioned, are Ilya Marichev and Elliott Sykes, who are essentially the top contenders now, regardless of age. Peter Huang and Cameron Harmon are doing their thing in the USAPL, which no one really cares. Because that division is dead. That federation, sorry. Chun Chia-Fan is super strong, and he's also someone who's getting closer and closer to 800, so he's definitely a threat as well. But Ilya Marichev and Elliott Sykes on the IPF side are genuinely 2 of the top lifters to challenge Perk. And the crazy thing is that they are super young. Elliott Sykes in particular is still a teenager, and Ilya Marichev has been lifting since he was 12 years old. So let's talk about Ilya Marichev. Ilya Marichev, Russian lifter who I believe recently turned 23, so technically still a junior. And he's been competing for over a decade. That's right, it's not a typo, over a decade. You do the math, you think, how long has this guy been lifting for? Well, his first competition was done at 12 years old in the 43 kilo weight class. How many lifters do you know of who have competed in the 43s? That's not even a division anymore, I don't think. Or if it is, it's only open to sub-juniors, or not even sub-juniors, possibly like, you know, this age. 43 kilos is crazy. I couldn't find footage of him this young or this light, so that is him instead at 2017 Equipped Worlds when he was 15 years old competing in the 53s, that photo you see on the right. These are his best numbers from that brief stint. I mean, he only spent a year here, understandably, before he grew out of the 43s. Nothing too crazy with his total, but I mean, hey, 43 kilos, that's pretty crazy. Then from 2015 to 2018, between the ages of 13 to 16, he was lifting in the 53s. That photo you see there is of him at 2018 Equipped Worlds, lifting in the 53 kilo weight class. These were his best numbers. And now another thing, Ilya Marichev has competed a lot. This guy could genuinely set the record for the most powerlifting competitions ever done, because he's already competed so much at the age of 23, it's ridiculous. But he's competed in and out of equipment, so he's done raw, he's done equipped. I'm going through obviously his best raw numbers, because he is a raw lifter today predominantly. So I'm not really going to be touching on his equipped lifts, even though some photos here I'm going to use are of his equipped days. But those are his best numbers. So he was knocking the door off 1,000 pound total at the young age of 16 at the body weight of 53 kilos, which, I mean, I know body weight ratios when you're that light tend to be overinflated a bit, but that's still pretty wild to be knocking on the door of 1,000 pound total, which is a pretty big goal for any gym goer at 16 years old at 53 kilos. At that age, he started winning titles. So he won 2 sub-junior nats, some Euros, some Worlds, and sub-juniors. Actually came second at Worlds. Of course, he also racked up some equipped titles, but I'm not going to be touching too much on his equipped days. Then he moved up to the 59 kilo class between the ages of 15 to 18 years old. There he is deadlifting at 2019 Worlds. And there he is deadlifting, breaking the world record junior deadlift with 260 kilos at 2019 Euros in that photo. But you can see that his total of 590 as a 59 is genuinely a top level total even today. Like, that's pretty close to, you think Waskar is the top 59 currently in the 630s. Fedosienko recently came back in the Asians hitting 620s. Then you have some other top 59s, Ivan Companion Diaz, Antoine Garcia, who are 600 to 610. So this 590 genuinely was at the time, and still could be considered today, a podium threat as a 59. So he was already strong at that young age. This was still him as a sub-junior, by the way. And indeed, he did rack up some impressive wins here, including 2 sub-junior Euros, Russian Nats. He won sub-junior Worlds, and he actually came second at Open Russian Nationals in 2020. I believe his last comp is a 59. He came second to none other than Sergey Fedosienko. So low-key, he's probably one of the best scalps on the resume of Sergey Fedosienko. But you can see there how much taller he is and how obvious it is he had to move up a weight class, which he did. He moved up to the 66s. From the ages of 17 to 20 years old, he competed as a 66. And that is him there at 2022 Russian Nationals, deadlifting 305 kilos on his way to totaling 700 kilos as a 66. That 305, by the way, was the overall deadlift world record at that time, which stood for 220 days before it was broken. And a 700 kilo total as a 66 is absolutely world class. Still is today, absolutely was back then. 2022 Worlds was won with a 710 total, which was the world record at the time. And that 710 world record stood, or 710.5 stood up until late 2024, until Kyoto upped it, and then Shell knocked it out of the park at Sheffield. But this genuinely would have made Ilya a full-on contender for Worlds. Obviously, unfortunately, after this, Russia was no longer eligible to compete at Worlds. Otherwise, we would have seen Ilya at potentially 2022 or 3 or 2024 Worlds as a 66, where he could have done some serious damage, especially with that huge deadlift he had. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So still being super young, he was barely out of his teenage years when he broke that deadlift world record and hit 700. He moved up to his next weight class, 74s. There are some accolades there. So he started competing in the Opens, won Open Russian Nats, bronze at Open Euros. But like I mentioned, he moved up to the 74s. So from the ages of 18 onwards until the present day, he is a 74 kilo lifter. And there he is, squatting 297.5 kilos at Asian Championships last year, on his way to totaling 785, which now stands as the second heaviest total by an active 74 lifter behind Austin Perkins. And he deadlifted 325, which is what you see there, on his way to hitting that total. He missed 340.5 for a world record. So he attempted a world record deadlift in his second weight class, which he missed. And I use the word missed very loosely because there is a photo of him there with 340.5. And I mean, I understand soft knees potentially compared to the previous angle there of that successful 325, but I personally think that lift should have stood. I've seen it from multiple angles now, and I think that lift should have stood. Would he have got that lift, not only would he have walked away with a world record deadlift, he also would have walked away with an 800.5 kilo total. He would have been only the 5th lifter to enter the 800s as a 74, after, of course, Taylor Atwood, Perk, Joe Borenstein, and Shell. because I count Joe Bronstein as a 74. He would have been only the 5th lifter to cross into the 800s, and he would have been in that very exclusive club. I believe he should have been based on how that lift moved. And I fully anticipate next time we see him compete, he will absolutely be in the 800s, potentially well into the 800s. But he's won 2 Open Russian Nationals. He won Asian Championships, which is where he hit that monster deadlift and monster total. And he is coming for Austin Perkins. He's already in the number 2. He's improving quick. He's starting to hit his physical prime. And he's got a monster deadlift, which I always said the way to beat Austin Perkins, you got to have a huge deadlift, because you're probably not going to beat him on subtotal. And that's exactly what Ilya Marichev has. And as he continues to grow and mature as a lifter, you would expect to see that squat and especially that bench continue to rise, which will get him closer and closer to the mid 800s to catching Austin Perkins. Okay, now let's talk about Elliott Sykes, who is currently 18 years old. I believe he's turning 19 relatively soon in the next month or two, but he's still 18 at this point, so technically he's still a sub-junior. And he's been competing similar to Ilya Marichev from a very young age, not quite 12, but he's been competing since he was 15 years old, so still very young. And in the early parts of his career, he was a 66 kilo lifter for that first year or so. And at the age of 15, he totaled 597.5, weighing only 66 kilos. And there he is squatting 222.5 kilos there. As a 66, he won Teen USAPL Nationals, which is where that competition was. Then he moved up to the 74s from the age of 16 onwards. However, notably, his body weight stayed pretty low. So in 2022, at another USAPL meet, he totaled 687.5, weighing only 70.9 kilos. Now, keep in mind, he was only 16 years old at this time, and 687.5, he was within cutting distance of 66, and we know how elite that total would have been. Like I said, the IPF World's Champ in 2022 in the 66s was 710, so similar to Ilya Marichev around this time, he could potentially have taken a run at 66 and competing there if he wanted to, if he could have preserved that total with a bit of a weight cut. However, he did the right thing being so young. He didn't stunt his growth. He continued to bulk, which was the correct thing to do because he got a hell of a lot stronger. So in 2024, at the age of just 18, he was at this point. At the age of 18 at Powerlifting America High School Nationals, he hit 725 at a body weight of 70.5. So again, his body weight still, I would say that's cutting distance from the 66s, totaled 725 at the age of 18 in 2024, where the IPF World's Champ in 2024 was 707.5, and the world record was 710.5 at the time. So this would have been above the world champion total, above the world record had he done it as a 66. Now, of course, he was a light 74, but still, there is something to be said about, how crazy that total is at that body weight. Very much not even close to being a filled out 74. And then there were some photos of him squatting and deadlifting from that meet. Then 2024 Sub Junior Worlds comes around, and this is where he really, pops onto everyone's radars. So he totals 766 at a body weight of 72.7. So still not fully filled out the weight class, still well below the weight class limit, totaling 766 to absolutely dominate Sub Junior Worlds and even dominate the Junior World category. He would have won that as well. And he went for a 312.5 deadlift on his third attempt, which he came very close to hitting. You can see it on the right there. That's how close he got before his grip eventually gave out. So super close to locking it out. And the significance of this is, if he would have got that lift, that would have added 12.5 kilos to his total, bringing it to 778.5, which would have been half a kilo ahead of the Open Worlds winning total from the year prior. 2023 Worlds was won by Kalle Johansson with 778, and the following year, an 18-year-old Elliott Sykes came inches away from beating that. Absolutely insane. Now, he has competed one more time since at another Powerlifting America meet last year, still as an 18-year-old, and he totaled 760, still in the 72s, not filling out the weight class. So 6 kilos below what he totaled at Sub-Junior Worlds. However, the significance of this was that he squatted 305, which is the second heaviest squat ever as a 74, ahead of Taylor Atwood, and just behind, obviously, Austin Perkins. Added kilos to his bench as well, and his deadlift in this meet is what let him down. He missed his second and third on grip. He only hit 280, which, if you remember from Sub-Junior Worlds, he hit 300. So if he would have hit that 300, it would have been at 780 at this point. His gym deadlift PB is, from what I've seen, 310. So if he would have added a gym PB deadlift to that subtotal on that day, he would have been 790. And he likely has a strength for more. It seems like grip seems to be a bit of a limiting factor for him at the moment, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. But he is getting very close as well to the high 7s and knocking on the door of 800. So there you have it. These two child prodigies have emerged, started lifting from very young, have moved up through the weight classes, and are now getting crazy strong and are among the best in the world in the 74s. And they are right on Austin Perkins' heels, and they are coming for him.